All right, you guys, I loved these pages so much. It's not really a chapter, just the way that this is laid out, but pages, whatever, 64 through 82. This was so good. I could not stop sending my husband pictures. I'm like, this is so good. Probably doesn't appreciate it quite to the level that I do. But anyways, just like looking through my whole leadership journey and just being a diamond for the last 8+ years and thinking like, what did I do with my people? And this was it right here. Page, he jumps right in on it. When I feel a person is ready to lead, I assign them a challenge that involves sacrifice, courage, and humbleness. We try to do that with people right away. If we notice, and he talks about this later in the chapter, but just being grateful if someone notices leadership qualities in you and then they give you a job, they ask you to lead something, they give you a responsibility for an event. That is a big deal. That is a privilege. And just know that somebody sees something in you if they are doing that with you. And I just love that. But anyways, he was saying that giving them just a task and just reminded me of something that I would do with my leaders. And I tell all of my people to do it with their people too. Like plan events together. Don't be the leader that tells everybody what to do. Get their input, get their ideas. I'm pretty sure that my level ones and my leaders are the ones that had the ideas for events. And I'm like, sure, let's do it. That is how you create leaders, is by working together. And that's pretty much what these pages were about, was creating and coordinating unity, inspiring, encouraging someone. It's not telling someone what to do. And Jamie, do you have stuff to add on that before I go to page 66 and 67?
Yeah, I'll quick pop in. I think the biggest thing, you yourself, make sure to not wait in your mind thinking like I'm gonna wait until I get a business builder and then I'll be able to lead, or I'm gonna wait till I hit a certain rank and then I'll be able to lead or have earned it somehow. It's not waiting for something. We can so many times, keep get ready to get ready, or just think that we maybe don't deserve something. Sometimes we don't think it's not our place, but there's so many things that you can do amongst the team and your sidelines and upline in terms of like the team page and adding value and all the things. So take ownership of that yourself and don't feel like you have to play it small because you may not have a business builder yet, or because you may not have hit a certain spot you think you should be at. Also, he mentions that, your sidelines, he said the teammates that are, they see people and that they applaud them. This is in the kind of mid to bottom of page 65. They're genuinely happy for each other when you succeed. And it's because oftentimes that they are putting themselves out there and showing leadership. You're seeing each other's faces. They see them taking leadership roles, and then therefore you're genuinely excited for each other. And I see that happening all the time. I see that in the team page when, you get to know each other and you're cheering each other on. I see that in book club when people are unmuting and talking and adding value. You get to know each other, or you're commenting in the comments during a team call or something like this. You get to know each other's names and faces, and you're adding value. And when you build that community and culture, you genuinely are excited for each other, right? And that's part of leadership as well, when you're adding value in that way. Yeah, Phallin.
Yeah, I underlined that too, is a leader find ways to influence action, getting your people into action and influencing them. And then I love charts. So on page 66 and 67, where they talk about what a level one leader thinks versus what a level two leader thinks. A level one leader thinks like, do what I say, do what I'm telling you to do. Why aren't my people working? I'm telling them what to do and they're not doing it. They're not doing the things that I tell them to do, instead of figuring out how to help them catch the vision, how to pour into them. level 2 relies on people skills and not power. And I think I realized that really early on in my business, that I had to care more about my people than about myself and about my goals. And that was the only way that I was going to have success, because I tried so long focusing on myself and then telling everyone what to do and wondering why they weren't doing it. But it says right here, let's work together. I will come to you. So reach down. That was the biggest takeaway that I got from this week, was reach down to your people to bring them up in their leadership and bring them up where they want to go, and you know and believe that they can go. Together we can win. What do you think? I'm here to help you. Mentally thinking, I want to add value to you. I believe you can do this. Let's think outside the box. Like, if there's a hurdle, what can we do to overcome this together? The truth is, and this is one of my favorite John Maxwell quotes ever, that if you have to tell someone that you're the leader, you are most definitely not. I had no idea that I was a leader. I just looked behind me and there were people following, and I was like, I don't even know what I'm doing, what is happening. And I called all of my people leaders when we were silvers and golds. That's everybody on this call. And we have Jules on this call too. So every single person can be treated like a leader. Let go of control and start fostering cooperation. So think about that with the team that you have. Look at what they are doing. How can you foster cooperation as a whole, and then teach them how to do the same with all of their teams? That it's a team. We're building teams, and it takes teamwork to do that. Anything else on those pages, Jamie?
You know, it just stands out to me, like when Phallin, when you went through some of those questions, specifically, you look at all of those, you cannot be the expert and show up with those kind of questions. You can't be in the mindset that I'm the leader, so I know the answers, so I have to be able to like tell them what to do and provide the direction and have all the answers for them, and it's my decisions or my choices. You can't show up in that space that she just, you know, gave those questions with that mentality. You have to show up as doing it together, as expecting that they, and knowing and expecting that they have value to add, that they have good suggestions and good answers, and you want to know what those are, and you want to collaborate together. So it's a totally different way you have to show up with your people. And I know he talks about that later too, but and then I'll just slide into number 2 here then, because that's kind of where we're at here. But the quote that it is not the titles that honor men, but men that honor titles. That is extremely powerful. That means it is not the rank that defines you. It is not when you hit emerald or diamond that you are now like this exceptional leader, or that you have earned whatever. The rank does not define you. It is you that defines the rank. It's you that makes the rank, right? At any rank. So you can have people at all ranks, and that doesn't make them a fantastic leader. You can have someone who's a jewel, that doesn't make them a fantastic leader. So you show up as the leader you want to be at, no matter what rank you are at, because you make the leader, not the rank. And if you can own that and live in that, then I know that that is where you're going to bring in people and develop leaders, and you're going to show up as your best self and add value in the best ways and be able to grow in leadership. In the same way, a microphone does not make a leader. So just because you hit a certain rank, or you think you know, whether it's leading a call or a microphone on stage or whatever, that is not also what makes a leader. You show up as a leader in any space that you are in, not a space that someone else necessarily puts you in. And then lastly, I'll turn it over here, but I wanted to really quick point out, he says, never believe that you deserve your position. It's not a right, it's a privilege. It has to continually be earned. And I think that if we truly sit in that and remember that and check ourselves with that, it is a gut check, and it is something that we should hold ourselves accountable to, because it can be all too easy to get used to where we're at, or think, well, I've learned that before, or I've heard this topic talked about before, so I already know that good, or I already whatever, versus being a continual learner and realizing we aren't the experts ever in anything.
Yeah, I think you guys remember this, write this down, whatever you got to do, but leaders are also followers. If you are not willing to follow a leader, you cannot be a leader, because you can expect people to do something that you're not also doing. And I just always wondered about myself, because I'm a really strong leader, but I also was a really strong follower. Whatever Lori told me to do, I 100% did it. Whatever the other diamonds who were above and beyond where I was at a gold or ruby or wherever, and even now, I will do it. Like if they say you need to do this, then I would be right there making sure I was doing that. And I think that is important. And it goes right along with page 68. Good leaders don't take anything for granted. They keep working and they keep leading. Now that's going to apply to gold, ruby, jewels, diamonds, emeralds, sapphires, whatever. You guys don't stop leading. Don't stop doing the things. Number one, the things that got to you to where you are. Number two, you have to lead your people even during hard times. I went through a lot of really bad health issues and crazy stuff in the last few years, and I did not stop leading my people. That was one thing that I did not stop doing, was being there for my people. There might have been other things that I've not had together, but I did not just leave my people hanging to the best of my ability. Sometimes I'd be like, oh, I'm so sick, I can't do this call today, we're going to do it tomorrow. But you have to be there for your people. And it's that he says right here, people remain dissatisfied in a way because dissatisfaction is a good one word definition for motivation. And I love them, just anything motivating, but I love that dissatisfaction. Jamie and I talk about this a lot because we're super motivated still as diamonds to especially help our people have what we have, because we see the beauty and the freedom in it. But just never being satisfied, you can be grateful and gratitude and dissatisfied at the same time. I think that's why I love that he put like all of this kind of stuff in the same area, but just wanting more. That's a good thing. It's a good thing to constantly be growing. You never want to get to a place where you stand still or get stagnant or become mediocre or become complacent. That is why as diamonds, we're not like, let's just kick. Celeste is a great example. She's still working. She's still doing all of the things that she has done to get to exactly where she is, because none of us want to get complacent. A good leader does not get complacent. Anything to add on to that, Jamie?
No, yeah, that's fantastic. I mean, and how do you not get complacent? I think it's keeping yourself doing the important things, so listening to things, learning, reading, being involved in things, being involved in stuff that your team is doing, that you can encourage and empower people. I think the second we start to distance ourselves a little bit or just go through the motions, you can become more and more complacent. And then he goes into leaving your position and moving toward your people. And one thing I've heard this before, so I want to point this out because this is definitely, I think, a normal thing to think and to do. But he mentions mistakenly believing that it's the responsibility of, like, hey, I have workers, I'm a leader, I have people working the business, they should come to me. They should come to me if they have questions. They should come to me if they want to do a coaching call. They should, and we can have that position or thoughts at times. I've seen that, but that is the wrong position to have. And John points us out right here, knowing, that good leaders we make it our responsibility, right? We have to come to our people. We have to initiate, right? So I think that can be, again, putting ourselves in a positional thing where we're up here and they're down here. And so trying, always catch ourselves if you ever feel like you're kind of getting in that spot. Well, that person, again, another kind of gut check, kind of putting yourself apart from someone else a little bit, that they should come to you because for whatever reason. So be the initiator as a leader and take that responsibility yourself. And I love that he mentions that in order to do, he mentions this multiple times, so you know what's important in different parts of these chapters that we've looked into, but to be able to succeed or do something new or grow in leadership, we have to leave our comfort zones. We have to take risks. We have to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. And that is what helps us grow. It expands, it not only helps us grow, but it expands our comfort zone. So not only are we going to be doing better if we do something out of our comfort zone, it's not only going to teach us something, but our comfort zone, instead of being, in this spot, it's going to expand it in a different way. Something else is going to then be in our comfort zone because we can do something, do more, right? So it continually helps us grow with that. Phil?
Yeah, I had to stop and think about that one actually on page 69, because I think part of my journey that I forgot was that I was reaching down to people a lot. And once people became more established in their leadership, like I let them come to me. And just where is that balance of playing ball with people? Like, how often do you constantly reach down? Because then you become the person dragging everybody. And I think that's a good discussion to have.
So say more
What
on
does that
that
look
one.
like?
Yeah.
Yeah, what does that look like? That looks like reaching down to them at the beginning of the month, maybe the beginning of an incentive. If there's an event, you're always reaching down, starting anything that's new, a new book club. That's a great time to reach down again. When you become dragging, you're reaching out to them every week, asking them why they're not on book club or where they're at, or, hey, I missed you, as motivation to try to keep them doing the right thing instead of them being motivated. It looks like they will reciprocate a bit. Like if you reach out to them and say, hey, we're doing this challenge, they will participate. So if they're giving anything, you should give double back to whatever it is, whatever effort they are putting in. You want to give more back to them and to encourage them to give more back. Does that make sense? So it's not just waiting for them to come to you. Like you sign someone up and they say they're going to work the business, and then you're just waiting for them to come to you. You reach out. When they do show initiative and they do come to you and say, hey, I would like to do XYZ, then you say, yes, let's do it. And then you take them beyond that. If they want to do an event or a party at their house, take them beyond that. Get them on book club, get them working towards leaders retreat. Always bring them a little bit further than where they are expecting to go in the first place.
I think another thing that makes me think of that too is if like use your intuition. If you feel like someone has starting to distance themselves or become quiet, like take the time to then reach out to them. Take the time to be a friend. Take the time to, like encourage them or inquire about their business or whatever it is. Use your intuition, because when when someone seems to kind of sometimes change things up a little bit or whatever. Don't wait for them to come to you. Wait for them to, ask you that next question if the communication kind of shifts a little bit. So I think that's important too.
Yeah, and I think what was also important before we move on to this next section here, just on page 69, it's only a paragraph, but it's so powerful, and it's about them. It's about learning about them, learning who they are and what they want. And honestly, people know when you care more about them than about yourself. People can just sense it. Like it's just the energy, it's just the vibe that you give off. They know if you care about them or if you care about your goals. You can care entirely about someone and help them make money. If you're not worried about making money and you just want to help them, you could talk about how they're going to make money all day long. And it's not about you. It's still about them. That's a question that I get asked a lot. Like, don't you feel guilty trying to get people to make money, knowing it's going to make you money? No, because I'm not thinking about me. I have money. I don't need money. I want to help them get what I have, and I care about them and their goals and where they're at. So on page 70, he kind of just moves on into, again, the growth mindset, thinking that you've arrived and lowering your expectations for yourself, sold your leadership short. You've fallen into a no growth mindset. I think that this happens. Maybe you see it at gold, but I think especially now, ruby and above, you might see this. Like people think that they've arrived. The 17-year-old thinks that he's arrived, and just have to laugh here. We have to keep growing. You can't just stop. You don't know everything. You need to grow. You need to constantly be attuning to your downline and what they need, and just really getting in their hearts and in their heads and constantly showing up. Forget about your title and your position. Definitely have seen this happen a lot at jewel level. People just seem to think that they're jewels and here they are. Interestingly enough, I have not really seen it happen much at diamonds. They kind of get to that teenage stage and they grow up and then they're diamonds and then they're good. But I've seen just across the board in Plexus, like, oh, she became a jewel. And I think we have to remember to keep growing, keep doing, keep learning, and keep applying and becoming a better version of ourselves. And I'm not in competition with anybody but myself. I was listening to an Ed Milet podcast this morning. I sent it to a couple of my girls, and it was talking just about challenging yourself to do something better than what you did last year or yesterday. Just growing yourself in something new. And that's why I say do something to get out of your comfort zone, something that's scary. I'm meeting somebody for coffee tomorrow. Just like, okay, out of comfort zone, out of my house, go and do and grow your business, and don't stay doing the same things over and over again. If you want a change in your business, you're looking for a change, you have to change something. If you aren't liking the results that you're getting, don't keep doing the same thing. And Ed Milet was talking about this too. It's something so small. It's never the magic to a successful business is not some huge, big, aha, wow, that was amazing. Nobody else is doing it. Now I'm going to go straight to diamond. It's usually something small. Just change what you're doing a little bit. It adds that excitement. It brings in new people. That's what I got from those first few pages there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think that's pretty grounding to think like it's kind of like opposite, right? You think you've arrived, or you think like you've done what you've done and you should be somewhere else. Sometimes that's a way of checking if you're in that space. Well, I should be this rank by now, or I should be this. That might be coming from a space of feeling like, you've arrived, right? And then, to say that the exact opposite in terms of that's actually lowering the expectations for yourselves is kind of like okay, like that's a big gut punch. And I think it's, and he says it's wise just to recognize how much we still have to learn. It's a way of keeping ourselves humble in such a good way. Always, all of us at any point it's wisdom to know that we are continually learning. We are never not able to learn more in new things. He then moves into beliefs that help a leader move up to level 2 and goes through 4 different statements, talking about titles not being, the end game here. And it being more about who the person is and the work that is done, not the title. We kind of talked about that earlier too. And I'll go into number 2 and then pass it off to you, Val, but people, not position, are a leader's most valuable asset. I thought it was super interesting and good in terms of, well, one, he says people get things done, not the playbook they use. That makes me think of people over systems. So systems are fantastic. Don't misunderstand that I'm, not saying that they're not very, very important, because that's what duplicates. But people are over the systems, right? We cannot, at the end of the day, that's not what's going to get us anywhere, is having all the best systems in the world and redoing all our systems all the time and thinking that that's going to solve everything. It is the people. And then even his thought process of how he knew he was a level 1 leader, he was thinking things like, where am I? How am I doing on the organizational chart? How do I compare to other leaders? How do I climb the ladder? Who do I need to know? What's my next step? So those were questions that he was thinking that helped him identify that he was in the leadership at level 1 there. And super interesting that he says, if your focus is on the position, you'll never be satisfied. And even if you do get to the top, you're not going to be satisfied anyway, because we're all focused on the system, right? And I think that kind of begs the question, what does satisfy you? At the end of the day, what satisfies you? Is it, if I get a certain rank, if I hit this goal, then I'm going to be happy? Or are we finding the joy in the journey? Are you finding the joy in the work that we're doing and the people that we're helping? Because then at the, that's what he just points out at the end of the day, the difference, and the importance of that. Val?
So I might be in the minority here. I'm not sure. I know we have a few other introverts, but this part, even on page 75, where he talks about you don't need to know everything, but you just need to, basically in Plexus terms, like sign up people who are better than you at things that maybe you're not super good at. And that's what Lori told me to do, because I did not have a lot of friends. So she's like, go sign up some people who have some friends. This is a relationship business, you guys. And I remember Brittany Howard was pretty much my only friend that I had. I didn't keep any of my friends from high school. I moved away and they were just like not on the same level. And I was the first one married, had all these kids. And I was told Brittany, I was like, I don't need any friends. I got you, I got my mom, and got my sister. I don't need any more friends. And she thought I was crazy. And I remember when I was thinking about a diamond doc and I was like, I don't know who the heck is going to be in my diamond doc, but we'll figure that out later. And when I got to diamonds and I had all these people that I had relationships with, and I loved these people. And I had no idea that I would feel that way about people that weren't even like my husband or my kids. And I decided that I loved the relationships. Some of you might laugh because you're like, I got all that without Plexus. But for me, I did not have that. And so when he's talking here about, it's about the people, it's not the systems, it's about the relationships, it's about loving people. I would be on my phone cleaning my house and I was on the phone talking to people. And I wasn't really training them in Plexus. I was caring about their life and we were just doing life. I was getting to know them and loving on them and supporting their goals, whatever it might be, answering questions, just helping them through anything in life. And I think that's so, so, so important. And then I would tag them in videos and let the videos do the training of them. But I think that's why I had such solid relationships with people, was I genuinely cared about them. I was like, oh my gosh, I got all these people to talk to. I actually really like being on the phone. I really like talking to people and caring about them and their goals. So he talks about that, like, we can't just be alone in this. It can't just be you over here signing people up. That's not how you're going to get things done, because people get things done, and you need to create strategic relationships with people who are better than you so that they can lift you up. I just thought that was so, so good. Jamie, you want to go through the last few pages on here before we open up for questions?
Yeah, so he ends this part talking about one, we don't need to know all the answers, which I resonated with. The first sentence there, he says, positional leaders often believe they have to have the answers. And that just kind of brought me back to remembering when Tiffany and Phallin said that I needed to start doing coaching calls. And my first thought was, I was so nervous. It was so uncomfortable because I felt like I needed to know all the answers in order to coach people well. And I was still in that mindset at times. And I was probably an emerald during that time when we really started like official coaching calls and stuff, and just feeling a lack of insecurity in leadership because I felt like I had to be better, do better, have the answers, whatever. So I can relate to that. And that's something that, is false. It's very, very inaccurate. It's definitely inaccurate when it comes to coaching, but in terms of leadership in general, as we've already talked about previously when we started this call. So I think that's very, very important. And I think it's good too that he says it's good to not only not know everything. That's a good thing, but it's also good to attract the people who know things that maybe you don't. So that's where, we bring in people that have different qualities, or, we bring in people that are better than us. That's amazing and fantastic. And then the number 4 in terms of including others, oh, Phallin, you were kind of talking about that already, right? Putting yourself ahead of others, putting others ahead of yourself, excuse me, and being willing to only go as fast as the people you lead. So that's where we can't get so far back or ahead or either way in terms of just going at it alone, right? We have to bring the people with us. And then do you have anything on that before this last section, Phil?
I mean, I underline it requires inclusion. It requires sacrifice of selfish personal ambition for the sake of the team and the vision of the organization. It means being part of something greater than yourself, and it means putting others ahead of yourself. And I get office hours, I totally do, but honest to God, I cringe when people say, my girl can only do calls after 9 o'clock and I want to be in bed. I don't know. Do you want to be diamond or do you want to be in bed? That's literally what I think. I remember Tiffany would call me at 11:30. I remember I had just gotten into bed, just got the 5 kids to bed, and she had a new girl. She's like, I think she's gonna do amazing. I don't even know who the heck the person was at this point, but she was excited about it. And so I was excited about it. And if I wasn't excited about it, I would tell myself, how bad do you want diamond? And I would get up out of bed so I didn't wake my husband up, and I would go take the call, and then I'd be excited, and then I'd try to get back to sleep. And I would do this. This was all the time. Was it ever convenient when you have 5 kids at home all day under the age of 7 to take calls throughout the day? I mean, only during nap time, and that was my time to post and do IPA. So no, it wasn't convenient. But if that's what worked for my team, then that was when we were going to do it. I pretty much made all of my business decisions based on what was going to work for them, because I just didn't care about what worked for me or not. So yeah, that was just kind of my last thought on all of that. And then I didn't really have a bunch underlined other than stuff that I already talked about, getting out of your comfort zone, etc. So we can take questions if you want.
Yep, I have some, I'll add something right before we
Yeah,
end
go ahead.
on the last section, but let's take questions first and then I'll wrap up with that.
Okay.
And Phallin, before we take questions, if you can check your phone while we're waiting for the first question, but Emily needs to have the code for our team call.
Okay.
But yes, questions.
I have a quick one for you, Jamie. So you said that you really struggled with like your mindset going into those coaching calls and like really stepping out, knowing you have that insecurity. Other than actually taking that action, what was something that you did for yourself to build that belief in yourself and to really get over that fear in order to coach your people where they needed to go?
Good question. I'm trying specifically in that moment. I mean, one thing that I had done to prepare myself better than what I think I was giving myself credit for and to continue to do so was being involved in the book clubs that we were doing and being very learning from like my upline in terms of questions that they were asking me. So trying to remember always, like not only to take in and apply what they're teaching me, but to think how, like, I always utilize that in terms of communicating with my team. I always learned through how they would dig in and ask me questions, for how I could dig in and ask them questions. So trying to be conscious of that. I know I have one level 1 who even on our like 3-way calls with new people, when we have a new join and such, she still does, I think sometimes will write down questions she hears me say, or if I happen on a coaching call with one of her people, she will just be listening, but she'll be writing down questions that she hears me say, just so she can use that in the future. So all of that I think was happening, but then ultimately it was literally just diving in feet first and doing it afraid. And the way I, coached on those first few calls is probably dramatically different than what I do now, but I learned as I went. I learned, because I would probably not do it very well at first, but then, ask the right questions that, that makes the difference on some points. And then you can continue to lean in and use those in the future for other people. And I got really good at asking questions because it wasn't about me knowing the answers. It was about asking questions to be able to dig in to help them uncover their own answers. And of course, at times giving advice and thoughts on things. But if we can learn to listen more and ask more questions, it often comes around in a much better way. Good question.
You guys touched on meeting the needs of your people by, saying that you would give them something to do and then wait for them to kind of respond, and maybe turn it up a notch and also ask them to do something else versus kind of feeling them out a little bit and knowing you need to relationship build. Can you talk a little bit about that balance again? And I have personally often hear the excuse about time. And so I am wondering just how oftentimes I don't know how to get over that objection with people. And Phallin, you talked a little bit about office hours, and that has been something that I have said. So now I'm like, oh man, I guess that maybe I need to kind of feel out how much people are willing to put into this before, thinking about that too. But can you talk just a little bit about that delicate balance of dialing it up and bringing it down a little bit?
So I feel like there's two questions there. So the last one, the balance with time and office hours and all that. If somebody's all in, then I'm going to be all in. Now, if somebody hasn't gotten a join in 2 years and they want me to get up out of bed at midnight because I think they found someone amazing, I'm going to be like, no, I'm not doing that. And of course I try, like, let's see, can we fit this in the middle of the day? Stuff like that. Try to work around your schedule and your family's schedule, but yeah, like Leah said, match their energy for sure. What are they putting into it? Try to get them to commit to other things too before you go flipping your whole schedule upside down, or even flying halfway across the country to do an event for them and they've only got one person. Like, use wisdom with all of that. And then if someone's telling you that they don't have time, your reaching down to them needs to be belief building. They don't want it bad enough. Their why isn't big enough. They don't believe that they can do it enough. So your goal is to give them belief, whether it's through the products, tagging them in product testimonies, helping them get results, whether it's through the business and making money. Again, help them get results, help them get their first 3 people, and then help their 3 people get 3 people. That doesn't have to take a lot of time. Again, meet them where they're at. Okay, you think it takes too much time. How much time are you willing to put into this right now? And then hold them to it. If they say 30 minutes, then do 30 minutes of IPA a day, but also try to get them on book club and team call. That doesn't have to be part of their 30 minutes. They can fold laundry while they're on. That's that pushing them a little bit further than where they want to go.
Mm-hmm. That's really good. Belief building is huge. And I think sometimes we think, well, I have to think about getting them all the way and get them like committed to all the things. And sometimes it's just knowing, okay, if we can get one thing to celebrate, one victory, that join, that, like Phallin said, like 3 and helping them get 3, just one step at a time and celebrate that. Sometimes just the excitement of doing something successful and having results from that adds into that belief, builds into that belief too. So coupling those things together, I think is important. But yeah, Phal, that's good.
Yeah, I like the GoPro CDs for building belief just in the industry, and then belief in people. It builds a belief that they can do it as well. And I think if they believe that they can grow a business and they believe in network marketing, then it's really easy to get behind the products because they just sell themselves with the results that people are getting. Does that answer your question, or do you have? Do you
Yeah,
want
I
us-
think you touched on a really important point, which is belief. And so I wrote that down as something that I have to continue to remind myself to go back to belief. I feel like that's kind of the root of everything, you know, believing in yourself, believing in the products, believing in the business. And um, but then inspiring somebody and encouraging somebody to get there. Um, it takes a little mind work of like what resources, what can I give this person to help them, what relates to them. So yeah, it'll just take a little bit more brain work there, but I think that was good.
I think people have to be hungry too. Like they have to want this. And the level of people who want diamond is pretty high, but the people who actually want it, great. Everyone wants to win the lottery. I'll take $1 million if you drop it off at my doorstep. That's kind of like the person who wants diamond. It sounds great, but do they really want it? Do they really need it? Are they really wanting more for life? So you can build their belief in wanting more too by dreaming big. Like, I'm excited to take my kids to Disney World. Like, whatever it is that's important to you. Here's my dream home gym. This is what I want. Not being afraid to want more. Building orphanages. These are some things that Diamonds have done. Taking my family on trips, my husband on a honeymoon he's never been, stuff like that. So I think you dreaming big and putting that out there, even make up a dream board, put it on your screensaver on your phone, then show that on your stories. Like, here's my goals, here's why I'm doing this. And that helps them to dream big too, because I think that a lot of people, they just aren't uncomfortable in their life. But when their cholesterol results come back and it's high, then they want the products. When they get a pay cut or they don't like their job or something happens medically, then they're hungry. So like you're there with the opportunity when somebody is wanting it as well. I don't think so. Another thing, I only relationship build with people that I like because, and I don't like everybody. I'm really picky about who I invest my time in and who gives time back to me. I wish I did, but I have 7 kids and I have a husband who's like always right there. So I don't have a lot of time for everybody. So I hang out with people that I like. And if I like them and they like me and we want to be friends, those are the people I build a relationship in. And then once they're working the business, then I will give them more relationship too. So I don't relationship build with everybody just because I hope they want to work the business. And I don't recommend that anybody does that either, unless you just really get tons of energy and absolutely love talking to 1,000 people. I prefer to talk to maybe 20 people. So yeah, that's what I would do with the relationship part. Don't laugh at me, you guys. I'm serious.
There are the introverts that are loving what you're saying right now, so you're good.
That is me. I'm the introvert who was like, oh, this is how I have friends. I loved when you guys said that earlier because I'm like, hey. So I was wondering, when it talked about like the not being satisfied part, I feel like that's really easy for me. But I feel like I struggle to help the builders on my team to not be satisfied in that way. I feel like it's really easy for them to be like, oh, well, that was good enough. You know, like I didn't have someone quit this month. Like, you know, they're very easily satisfied. And I know that goes down to like your why and how hungry you are. But I feel like I have trouble, I guess, relating to that because it's really easy for me to see maybe like one of you guys post about something like the new house you're getting or whatever, and I'm even more hungry. But I don't feel like that easily happens for the builders on my team. So, what would you guys say is like a way to like help like poke that fire of like, hey, don't be satisfied with the fact that just no one quit this month. You didn't have any new joins, you're not like moving. Or do you feel like that's more of like a them thing and there's not really anything I can do to help that?
I'm curious what Jamie's going to say because I know what I'm going to say.
You want me to go first?
You go ahead.
I have a lot of different thoughts, so I'll just kind of brain dump. But one, I think it does come back to like what Phallin said on belief and what they actually think is possible for them if they actually want it enough, like you even said, Justina. So pouring that belief in them, calling out what you see in them. I think if you believe what they are capable of, sometimes people will rise to the level of your expectations, right? So if you set that bar just not too high, but a little bit higher than, maybe what they're even reaching for, and you show that you believe in them and that they can do that and empower them to reach that, sometimes that can help. Also, I don't know if they're willing or able, not able, if they would be willing to or do listen to like podcasts or like things that you send them, but um an Ed Milet podcast, just sending them one of something and seeing if they'll listen to it that day. I find it really hard to listen to anything usually of his that doesn't get me fired up. So having something that's going to be like, okay, like, yes, I can do this, or that empowers you to do something, getting them involved in the community so they're not like alone in their home doing it by themselves and therefore bleh about it, versus involved and feeling a part of something, commenting in the team page. People get to know their names and their faces and they're building those relationships. It all comes with time sometimes, but in like trying to get them involved in that. And at the end of the day, some people are not willing and some are, but those are my brain dump thoughts. Val?
Yeah, I was gonna say about Ed Milet too. Love, 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 love him. Oh my gosh, you guys, you have to be listening to him. His stuff is so motivating and so good. Every time I like read the title, I'm like, I don't need to hear this. Like I already know all this. Then I listen to it and I'm inspired. So anybody can learn from him. And this comes from him, Justina. And I was going to say, it's a mentality. If somebody isn't able to dream big or they don't want more for life, those are the type of people I have a really hard time being friends with. There's certain things I physically can't do. Like, it makes me crazy. Like, Jamie and I were just talking about this. Like, how do people think that they have enough money? We make a lot of money and we need more money because we have big goals, big dreams. We only have one life to live. And there's so many things we want to do, not buy. I don't need any more Louis Vuittons. I don't want to buy anything else. I want to do. I want to experience. I want to build. And it's not, I think what Ed Milet said that was really good was if somebody's having a hard time getting to that shift of more, of being dissatisfied and then being motivated for more, and to be like you, Justina, and like me, like Jamie, like Tova, like the people who are on these calls, get them to make some sort of change in what they put into their mouth, so through their food, or get them out there and doing some sort of gym challenge, working out. This is what Milet said, and I was like, he's genius. I knew that this would help somebody. Have them do a reset, have them do something that makes some sort of changes in their body physically, and those are the two of the easiest things to do: deciding to move and deciding what to not put in your mouth. And also, your branding, your brand is who you are. So your personal brand is the biggest asset that any of us have. And you can influence your team through the things that you are doing, the things that you are saying, etc. And then if all else fails, find a different group of people, a different moms group online, a different group in person. Like, if you're finding that it's a group of people that just aren't motivated, sometimes you just have to switch it up and get different people, like if that's a common problem with the people that you're working with.
Okay, awesome. Thank you guys.
Yeah.
Probably have time for one more question if anyone has one. Otherwise, I can fill the time here too. I got some thoughts, so speak now or no, hold your peace. Oh, Leah unmuted.
Yep. Top of 79, number 3, define your leadership. The last question there, what leadership practices do I want to put into place? What are some Plexus specific practices that you can recommend, even for somebody who maybe doesn't have a team to lead? Like I'm thinking, obviously this whole thing, like you guys are showing us the importance of developing leadership, and we want to be doing that early on. So even for a brand new person coming in, would love to hear your thoughts on that.
Ooh, what leadership practices do I want it to put into place? So us personally, or what should a person be doing in general?
A new person coming in, she said.
Like, yeah, yep.
Honestly, I think one of the, again, is where it's right here. Who am I? What are my values? And then it goes into what leadership practices. I think that your personal brand and who you are on social media, our social media pages is what Plexus is paying us. They're paying us to be the advertisements, basically. So that is by far the number one way that people can put out their leadership, aside from systems, aside from like, I'm going to be consistent. Showing up when it's hard is when it defines who you are. Showing up when it's easy doesn't count in leadership. Showing up when it's hard is what leadership is. It's getting down in the ditch. The ditch is a muddy place full of water and snakes and everything that you don't want to deal with. Leadership isn't made on the mountaintops. It is made down in the valleys. And that's where people need to just be willing to be. And I tell my people up front, like, here's what's going to be hard. Here, there are going to be people who quit. There are going to be people who don't want to go through detox. If someone is a business builder, I tell them those things up front so that they can be prepared for what is going to come and what's going to be hard. And I straight up tell them that it's not going to be easy, because then when it's hard, then they start to get confused and concerned and think that they're doing something wrong. So yeah, I think the best leadership practices are being consistent and having that grit and determination and being willing to do the hard things and being willing to do double what you expect your team to do.
Showing up when it's hard, but also who you are when it's hard. Like the type of person you become when things are at its worst or the hardest. Your values, your character. I mean, that is huge. So who are you when the chips are down and when things are tough? Elizabeth said in here too, which is really, really good, leadership in your own space. So not only social media, but your community, your church, your family. So, and what is leadership? It's adding value. So adding value in person, in the spaces around you, in the groups that you're in, on social media, and then adding value in terms of our work environment, I think is a given, right? And that can be done right away by as simple as commenting under people's posts in the team page. That is adding value. And that is building the community. That's being a part of the culture. Like I said before, commenting in the comments here, on team calls, on book clubs, like being a part of the community, adding value. If you learn something, teach it. So put it on your social media, put it in the team page, put it somewhere and teach it. Get on a call with your business builder, teach it to them. So when you learn, pass it along. That's adding value as well. So all of those things I think are really good for someone new per se coming into, what we're doing here in this business. I think like we said, like he started off here, it's not a position, it's not a title, it's not waiting till you feel like you can or should lead. It's adding value in all your spaces right away. And I'll say too, anything on that? Yeah, Phallin?
Just what you said about just the commenting, like that is if I see somebody, my team's so big at this point, but I would see new people get added to the team page and then I would see them commenting. I'm like, you have somebody that person right there, all eyes on that person, focus on that person and developing them into a leader. If they took the initiative to participate in what we are doing, same with people unmuting on book club. I am way impressed with somebody who will do that. It's out of their comfort zone. It's adding value. It's giving back to people. It's taking ownership. It's taking leadership. It's just like going right in. And that gets me so much more excited than even somebody who gets a join right away. Like that pretty much means nothing. I love that though, too, that if they're already adding value and sharing about the products with everybody that they meet, I mean, that is awesome. So I think it does go back to that service mindset.
Mhm. So wrapping this up, I just want to quick point out, and Leah mentioned those questions right there on 79. So if you have not already, I highly recommend, I encourage you guys to be very intentional and go to pages 78 through 80 and highlight or write down any question you can find in there. Anything that has a question mark. There is a lot of them. I spent the time and wrote down myself the questions and I wrote down my answers. And some of them I could have easily answered in my head. I could have easily said, yep, and just kind of quick mentally said something. But I encourage you to actually write it down, put pen to paper. There's a lot of really, really good questions in there. And I think that something different happens when you write that down and take ownership of what you are putting pen to paper there with. Whether that be, your job description even, and the vision of the company, the vision for yourself, and how you can include your team on that. All these questions are really, really good. And I actually took the time to, you guys can go to the help center and look yourself, but there is, I could even put in the comments of when I post this, but Plexus has you can't see my phone, their mission written out. It's we ignite hope, health, and happiness for those who want more out of life. They have our vision pillars. It includes warp speed, rise, eureka, symphony, better together, and they explain what each of those are. I don't have time to say it right now as I would because we're running out of time. And then they have core values, which are one plexus, being accountable, getting the job done right, and then we empower others. And it has descriptions for each of those as well. So take the time to just look at that and be familiar with it, and then apply it to how we can, use that with our team and build off of that. So anyway, thank you all for being on tonight. Phallin, anything